Okay, so you should have this pocket and this title. We're going to come back to that, so you can just set that aside. The other thing that you're going to need is this set of colored pencils, and it really does matter the color. So we have a purple, a brown, pink, kind of a darker blue, green, and then we need a kind of turquoise or a lighter shade of blue, gray, yellow, orange, and red. So you might have to share and figure it out, but you really do need these colors. And then what I want you to look at are your cards. We're going to go through each one. We're going to define what they are, and then we're going to be circling some keywords, and then we're going to be looking at the example. So we'll start with oxymoron, and this little tab should be colored. This one is light blue, so I'm going to grab my light blue. So an oxymoron is a phrase with words that contradict each other with opposite meanings. To contradict means to go against. So we're going to circle the word contradict and opposite meanings. So we have two words that when you put them together, they kind of mean the opposite thing, but together it works. So here's our example. My sister is such a big baby when she doesn't get her way. Now, the oxymoron on this sentence is big baby, because the word big and baby don't naturally go together. They kind of have opposite meanings, but when you put them together, they mean something figurative, which means she's being a big baby, like she's not getting her way. So that's oxymoron. Then we're going to put our blue pencil down and pick up the sheet that has allusion, idiom, onomatopoeia, and alliteration. We're going to start up here in the left, and we're going to grab our brown colored pencil. So an allusion is a reference to a person, place, or event from literature, sports, history, movies, or the arts. So this is when in a poem or in a story, an author will allude to or reference some other famous sports figure, historian, writer. So it's a person or a place or an event from some other arena, literature, sports, movies, or the arts, that one author is referencing to. So here's our example. My Uncle Norman is such a Scrooge. He wouldn't even leave a tip for the waitress. The allusion in this, we're saying Norman is such a Scrooge. And if you're familiar with this, Scrooge is a famous character from a story called A Christmas Carol. And in that story, he is very tight with his money. He hates to spend money. He doesn't like to help people with his money. He's a Scrooge. So we're saying her Uncle Norman is a Scrooge. He didn't even leave a tip for the waitress. So then we'll go to idiom. We're going to grab our pink. Idiom is a group of words whose collective meaning is quite different from their individual literal meaning. So collective means all together. So when you take the words all together, they mean something different than if you had taken them separately and individually. For example, while walking the dog, I stopped to shoot the breeze with our neighbor. So here's your idiom, shoot the breeze. However, we don't literally mean to shoot the breeze. It's not pew, 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 shoot the breeze. That's not what it means. We take it collectively, so we take this whole phrase as one phrase, and it actually means to have a conversation with. So its collective meaning is very different than its literal meaning. That's an idiom. We're going to go to onomatopoeia, which is kind of a crazy word to say, and we're going to grab our orange. These are so fun because these are words whose sounds suggest their meaning. They're words that sound like the sound they make. So whose sounds suggest their meaning. If you're a Batman fan, the, pow, pop, things like that, onomatopoeia. The shaken soda fizzed out of the bottle. Fizzed is our onomatopoeia because the word fizzed is also the sound that the soda makes, a shaken soda. So fizzed is onomatopoeia. Next is alliteration. This is the repetition, which another word for that is to repeat. The repetition of the same initial, and I am going to write right here, initial means beginning, just so you know what initial means. The repetition of the same initial consonant sound in a series of words. So let's break that down. Has to be the same beginning consonant. So when you learned your alphabet, not the vowels, no A, E, I, O, U, none of those. All of the other letters, B's, C's, D's, in a series of words. So in alliteration, you have to have at least 2, if not more, words in a series that have the same sound. Now, don't get confused. It's the sound, not the letter. So even though a word might have the same letter, it doesn't necessarily have the same sound. For example, Carrie cooked cupcakes in her sister's kitchen. The repeated consonant sound is the k sound. Carrie cooked cupcakes in her sister's kitchen. And you'll notice we have 2 K's and 2 C's because the k sound can be made with either a K or a C. So the letters have nothing to do with it, just the sound. Okay, we'll go to our next one. Simile, metaphor, personification, and hyperbole. Simile is a comparison of 2 unlike things using the words like or as. So we're going to compare, which means we're going to say how they are alike, even though they are 2 unlike things. And then the key words, similes have to have like or as. So we have, she wilted like a thirsty flower when the teacher corrected her grammar in front of the class. So what we're looking at is we're comparing this girl, she, to a thirsty flower. So here's the 2 things we are comparing. A girl and a thirsty flower normally would have nothing in common, but we're stating that they're having a commonality because they both wilt. She wilted and a flower wilts. So she and the thirsty flower wilted, and then we got to have that like. So there's your simile. A metaphor is, again, a comparison. So 2 things, except we're going to take 2 unlike things. But here's the difference. Kids often get similes and metaphors confused. The big difference is, in a metaphor, you do not use like or as. You simply say one thing is another. And by is, it can be any of the is verbs. Am, is, are, was, were. Any of those forms of that verb can be used in a metaphor. So here's our example. Max was a starving hyena, devouring everything in sight. So first we find our 2 things. Max, we're comparing him to a starving hyena. Max isn't really a starving hyena, but they have a commonality in that they both devour food. So we're comparing them. However, we're using this is form of this verb. So we're saying Max was a starving hyena. No like or as. Then we have personification. I love this one. Giving human characteristics to non-human things. So human characteristics to non-human things. So we're giving an object, something that is not alive, a characteristic of a human. So we have the ancient car wheezed its last breath and refused to move another inch. So where is our non-human object? It's a car. So what human characteristics are we giving it? We're saying it wheezed its last breath. Can a car really breathe? No, but we're giving it its last breath. And then we're also saying that the car refused to move. A car can't really refuse to move. Only a human can refuse. So we gave a non-human thing human characteristics. And here's our last one, hyperbole, which we'll do in yellow. Lots of hyperboles in 6th grade. We like to exaggerate. This is an exaggeration. And when you exaggerate, you really, really, really stretch the truth. And hyperboles are extreme versions of stretching the truth. So an exaggeration that cannot be true. It's so far out there, there's no way it's true. So I hated camping, and now there were 1 billion mosquitoes in our tent. Is it possible that there could actually be 1 billion mosquitoes? No. We are exaggerating for effect. We want to say how unhappy we are, even with the 20 mosquitoes, but in order to emphasize it, we say 1 billion mosquitoes. There's your hyperbole.